All right, everybody. Yeah, how you doing? We took yesterday off. The Eclipse. We drove back to L.A. 9.5 hours last night, but we're here. It's Tuesday. Tonight, Mel Fabregas is here, man. How cool is that? Fabregas. Man, I've been listening to him for so many years, and to hear his voice. How cool is that, man? We got Mel on the show tonight. I just posted pictures up in Twitter of my new skull, and there it is. Sacred Skulls. Judy Kyle is an amazing artist, and this thing opens. It's got this key. I'm all tied in right now, but it's got this key, and it goes in the bottom, and in this little keyhole right there, and this section here with all the inlays, that actually opens up, swivels, and you can put stuff in there. Yeah, there it is. One of a kind. Is that amazing? So, anyway, you can get yours. I posted up some other pictures, too, as well. Very, very cool. What a great guy. And links to his website. So, anyway, I'm good to go. I'm just looking at things here. After taking so many days off, it takes a minute to get acclimated again. It's like, what are we doing? It was that much fun up there, and I hope you did too. I hope you had a good time, and you had a chance to peep out the eclipse yesterday. So there you go. We go live here in 2 minutes, and tonight, Mel Fabregas. Veritas Radio. I'll be right back.
radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Yeah, man. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. How you doing? Fade to Black. We're back. All right. Today's Tuesday, August 22nd. 230 days into the new year. Just 130 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. I'm getting text right now. Baby Martin's listening to me. Hey, Martin, are you wearing your Fade to Black shirt right now? All right. Tonight. All right. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, The Planet, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is going on? Did you have a good Eclipse day yesterday? We did. We did it up at Mount Shasta. More on that in just a bit. And depending on where you were in the country, you know, I'm sure you got a little piece of something, no matter what. But the closer you were to that track, the more fantastical it got. And we were right there, and it was pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. So that was yesterday. So we took the day off. We rolled back into L.A. last night at about 1:30 a.m. And we chose to drive there and back to Mount Shasta because there's no easy way in and out. To go inside of California, we would have had to have changed planes twice and still rented a car and still drove 2 hours. So by the time we were all done, if we chose to fly, it would have been a 9.5 hour trip. So we just thought, let's just pack up the car. We'll take Teddy, which we did, and we drove up, and it was just a great time. Road trip, 9.5 hours straight too, no breaks, a couple of rest stops. That was it. Pounded 9.5 hours on the road. Very cool though, and right after everything was done yesterday, and did another panel. We turned around and came back. I'll address all of this in a minute, but tonight on the show, Mel Fabregas is with us, and veteran host of Veritas Radio. So it's Veritas on F2B. It's kind of like what I'm calling it. We've been, all of us have been listening to Mel over the years. Just a great interviewer, a great style, a great way of looking at the world. But you know what? I thought about this. I don't know if I've ever heard Mel interviewed. So there you go. Tonight will be host to host, Veritas Radio on Fade to Black. It's going to be an excellent conversation. So looking forward to this. Such a cool guy. So tonight, Mel Fabregas is here. Tomorrow night, Brad Olson is going to be here. We're going to do a total Eclipse show tomorrow night. He was up in Idaho. He got the full eclipse yesterday. So we're going to do that tomorrow night with Brad and a couple of other special guests tomorrow night. So dial in for that. And then Thursday, it is the return of Ralph Ellis. Adam and Eve. As only Ralph Ellis can do it. So that's going to be Thursday night. Get ready for that. We will have John Rappaport. Don't you freak out. John Rappaport will be here with his No More Fake Newsroom Live. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Simple enough, at JChurchRadio. Everything is on Facebook and YouTube. Everything is Fade to Black or Jimmy Church Radio, something. Game Changer Network. You can go find it. Follow, like, and subscribe over on our website. Now, a couple of house cleaning little things. I got email. I didn't have a chance to get into it today, but I will look at this tomorrow. Apparently, we may have a missing episode, so I will find out what's going on with that. And because I went and looked my first pass through, I didn't have any issues. Everything is there. But I'm going to look into this a little bit deeper tomorrow. But I think somebody is saying that in the membership area, that episode like 704 or 705 is missing. So I'll look into that, and if it's missing or if there's something wrong, because I think everything is there. We'll figure that out. If you guys have seen a missing episode from last week, because I know everything is there up in iHeart. Everything is, you know what I mean? Everything is there. So I'm not sure, and I'm going to take a peek tomorrow. But if you've seen anything missing, let me know. Okay? All right. We've been a little bit backed up on T-shirts and hats and getting those shipped out, amongst other things. And all of the house cleaning here, all of the catch-up that we need to do will be done over the next 24 to 48 hours. So if you've been waiting for something, if we double shipped you and didn't ship to somebody else, I got all kinds of email about that. You sent stuff to me twice. Okay. We get that. We're going to do an immense amount of house cleaning over the next couple of days, while all of the construction is going on over at our house, because the contractors will be there for the next few days dialing that stuff in. Okay, because we had a water heater that blew. Okay, email throughout the show, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Very simple. Subscribe to our podcast. You can become a member or subscribe to the podcast, whatever you would like to do. Go over to the website and pick your poison. The podcast is $2 a month. It's right there. If you want to become a full-on Fade or Not, you can do that in our membership area. We have it all the way from free, where you get the bunker cam and some other stuff, and then you can go all the way to full-on Game Changer with autographed hats and T-shirts and bunker cam and commercial-free downloadable archives, all that stuff. Okay, don't forget to check out all of our sponsors: Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com, River Moon Coffee, New Pharma, Ancient Life Oil, Studio Dome Speakers, and our newest, because I just posted it up, Sacred Skulls. And there it is. For all of you Fade or Nots, I'm showing it in the camera. There's my sacred skull. Judy Kyle, look at that. He is an artiste, real artist. So we've got that stuff up here. Let me see if I can get this link up here one more time. There it is. Sacred Skulls. I'm putting this up in Twitter right now. Unbelievable artist. And I can't wait to get him on the show. It's just a guy like this, where it takes him 2 years to do one of these skulls. 2 years. 2 years. So think about that. All one of a kind, and they're absolutely incredible. So go and check out Sacred Skulls, and the link is right there. Okay? Let's get this show cracking right now. Happy birthday to today. Kristen Wiig is 44. Cindy Williams today is 70. Of course, she played Shirley Feeney on Laverne and Shirley. And great, by the way, in American Graffiti, both films. Valerie Harper today is 78. I can't believe that. You know, she was Rhoda on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Then they did this spin-off show, Rhoda, right? Valerie Harper today is 78. Where did the time go? Our dead guy's birthday today is Lane Staley. 1967 to 2002, died at the age of 34. Alice in Chains frontman, of course. And yeah, he passed away at 34. They didn't call it a suicide. Accidental death. On April 19, 2002, Staley's accountants contacted Staley's former manager, Susan Silver, and informed her that no money had been withdrawn from his bank account for 2 weeks. The police went to Staley's home, kicked in the door, and laying on the couch, lit by a flickering TV, was Lane. So there you go. Lane, if you're listening, happy birthday. On this day in history, happened 1992, the incident at Ruby Ridge. Second day of the standoff at Randy Weaver's remote northern Idaho cabin. FBI sharpshooter Lon Horiuchi wounds Randy Weaver, Kevin Harrison, and kills Weaver's wife, Vicky, on this day in 1992. Fader fact. In 1986, a Soviet pilot made a bet with his co-pilot that he could land the airplane with an instrument-only approach, blindfolded, sort of, with no contact, visual contact with the ground. You know what happened? He crashed the plane, killing 70 of the 94 passengers and crew that were on board. That is a Fader fact. All right, tonight we have Mel Fabregas on with us, host of Veritas Radio. So that means it's host to host tonight on Fade to Black. It's Veritas on F2B. Tomorrow night we're going to do a total Eclipse special. We're going to have a few special guests on with us, and Brad Olson's going to be here. He was up in Idaho. He got the full Eclipse. So we're going to talk about Eclipse history and the event yesterday and what we went through. We would love to hear from you too as well, and we will talk about our experiences and what happened with us. Okay? But tonight it is Mel Fabregas. On Thursday night, Ralph Ellis is going to be here live from Europe, and John Rappaport's going to be here too as well. All right. Let's have a conversation. Over the weekend, Sunday morning, Bill Tompkins passed. And at 2 a.m. Now, we were together up there. Bill died at the age of 94. He had a heart attack, and so he had a blood. They call it a blood tumor, blood clot, and they took him off of life support. It happened here in Southern California. And he passed away at 2 a.m. It's crazy that he passed on the day of the eclipse, the morning of, and that was interesting. But also, we were doing the Eclipse of Disclosure conference up at Mount Shasta, and his name was mentioned all weekend long, right? And Bill, and it was just great. And then he chose to go and leave this planet, and it was sad because he was part of everybody's conversations up there all weekend, and then it just caught everybody by surprise. So we did a little prayer, we did a little meditation, and we were doing the Sky Watch when the announcement had come in, and at that moment I spin around. I said, the next thing that we see, we will. We'll call it the Tompkins 2017 object. And right as I said that, and it was right as I said that, I spin around, look up, shooting star, just blasted across the sky. And that was a trip. That was a trip. So I want a little toast to Bill. And I don't want everybody to be sad, because being sad is the wrong way to go. He lived to 94. 94. He did everything his way throughout his life. And he will be talked about for decades and decades to come. He left us with a vast body of research and knowledge and tools for us to continue. And it affected Corey as it should. It affected David as it should, because they were working together and supporting each other and writing books and plans and doing things. He was just at the MUFON Symposium last month, and was all good. It was all good. But he passed away over the weekend. And there were some rumors going around that, but I will say this. Him going to the edge of the cliff like he did. He went to the edge. He took life to the edge. He took his foot, he stuck it out there in the dark and felt the edge of the cliff. There it is. He was right there. Think about that. That's what he did for us. Don't be sad. Dude took a peek. So right now, he's in another dimension. Right? He's in another dimension drawing pictures. There you go. Bill Tompkins, 94, passed away this weekend. All right, now back to the eclipse. So we're up there yesterday. And I didn't really know what to expect, because the last time I remember going through an eclipse, I was in Michigan. I was like 7 years old. If my memory is right, and I was at the right place that I'm thinking, it was so long ago. I didn't see much. I remember the pinhole thing and the shoebox and looking at it, and I was 7, and, I remember getting it a little cloudy, and then it was over. But that's not the way this went down yesterday. We're going to go a little bit deeper tomorrow. But a couple of cool things happened. And the first thing that I did not expect, and nobody else there did, nobody was talking about this part of it, where we were, and we had like 90, they were saying it was 90%. I think it was a little higher than that, probably, 90, 95%, nearly a total eclipse where we were at Mount Shasta. It was hot. Mount Shasta, 100 degrees, 95 degrees, 100 degrees, humid, hot the whole time. When the eclipse started to kick into full gear as it was moving across, it got cold. It got cold. Cold. It dropped like, I don't know, 20, 30 degrees in minutes. It was really trippy. Because we were dealing with the heat up there all weekend, and just got cold, and the colors changed. Now, this wasn't like the colors when the clouds go over the sun. This was a bit different. It looked like sepia tone to me. It was like weird, man. Everything went like red and orange. It was trippy. So that's going on, and it lasted for a while. There were quite a few pictures that are posted out there of Rita and I and everybody up there, and I saw everybody else's too. Very cool. But when you looked at it, it had this thing, because it was such a huge event, a huge solar space thing. You could tell. And I'm looking at it in the with the glasses on, and I'm looking, and I felt weird and cool at the same time. Like this was something happening. I could feel it. The electricity in the air. It was a very fun thing. We probably had around us up there at the mill, definitely a few hundred people or more. that were up there witnessing it. There was so many people, so it's hard for me to guess. But everybody looking up at the same time, and spending it with Rita, and it just made it all the more special. So for us, it was really, 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 really cool and really amazing. And the event itself went off without a hitch, no technical errors, nothing. Everything was good. Packed house every night, as you could see with all the photographs that I put out there. But that's always just a bonus. But the people that were there, all of the attendees, were great. Now, let's put that aside for a second. Let me tell you what was really, really cool about this conference. The speakers were amazing and intense. Jay Widener lit it on fire. We expect that, okay? So that's that part. We expect that. But Jay lit it up. Corey did 4 different presentations, and all were really good. He did 3 Q&As and interviews with other guests on stage, and then he did one by himself. So he did 4. Justin Deschamps, incredible. Jordan Sather, I think he did 3 different presentations, and he opened up the show every single day. Teresa Yanaros, amazing. I could go. Michael Sala lit it up. I can go on and on. But the style and the way that everything was done. Gerald O'Donnell. Oh man, woo! So he's going to be on the show too as well. And Bentinho Massaro, I cannot wait till he is on this show. An amazing presentation. So for everybody that was there, okay, where was this? Let's see, who's this a picture of? I can't tell. Oh yeah, it's Corey. The way that these presentations were done, the way that the subjects were chosen and presented, amazing. And the facility, McLeod, the city, town, all combined into just a really great event. And you had Mount Shasta, staring down at you the entire time. Very cool. All right, and we'll talk more about this over the next few days. And Rita has got a zillion pictures, so we'll get all of those up there too as well. And we took Teddy. Oh man, great! Just a great event and a great mixer that they put together too as well. More on that later. I do want to say this. Putting the Eclipse aside and Bill Tompkins. Subject number 3, really quick. Today, because we've been out of touch for 5 days, no CNN, no TV, zero TV for 5 days at all. So today, get into the bunker and it turns out, and you can't, I don't believe you can see this from your side. You would have to go and search a little bit deeper. But it turns out I got hit by YouTube. So I called the management company that handles the management of our YouTube channel. And I call him up, and he immediately, the main guy, the manager that oversees, goes, his name's Ian. You got hit, didn't you? And I went, well, let me tell you what's going on. No, you got hit, and they're waving. Everybody is getting hit. And everybody that we manage over here, because they're larger YouTube channels, they have a lot of content, a lot of views, and a lot of this, a lot of advertising. They're all getting hit. I've been on the phone all day. I said, really? Yeah, they started this weekend. So, and what happened, we have 700 YouTube videos up. And I just signed on to YouTube just to see what's going on and kind of check in. And I see all these flags. Boom, 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 boom. You have been flagged. You have been flagged. Advertising. This material is not advertiser friendly. What? And it was a trip to see this. Now, we have been a YouTube partner for 4 years. We have had no issues, none, when it comes to this stuff. We initiate the problems. We don't have problems coming to us for anything. YouTube loves us. And here we virtually every other video has been flagged. Every one. We have to go now. We have 700 videos up. It looks like out of 700, about 250 or 300, about a third, every other one, it's been flagged. And we have to go and do a manual review and appeal. Think about that. That's right. And so virtually they've shut our channel down as far as income goes. So the way that this appeals process works with YouTube, and this is I'm on notice that unless my video has had 1,000 views in the last 7 days or more, then it can be appealed. But if not, and it's just there, then I can't appeal it. The flag stays. And now this is apparently what has gone on. YouTube has fired up a software program that is looking for flags in audio content. Okay? And it's searching for keywords. And I'm looking at who they flagged. They have flagged all of my Jim Mars interviews, every single one, which were all titled The View from Mars, right? Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, whatever. All of those. Stephen Greer's flagged. Wilcock and Good are okay. Trip on that. But Linda Moulton Howe is not. And this is just going through the first 200 video. I mean, just scrolling from page to page. I am just infuriated. I mean, I just can't believe this. And it's just, now, I don't know who is choosing. So we can no longer have a description of the show up. Can't do that. We can't have any tag words. Can't do it. They have a list of thousands of words that will immediately flag all of this. Now, I don't use lots of keywords out there that would flag things. ISIS, Trump. I don't do that stuff. But, and we don't talk about that stuff on the show, but we do it enough where if I mention I don't watch ISIS videos anymore, that'll get me a flag in the audio. Apparently. And they're not telling us what the issues are. Unbelievable. Man. And unfortunately, we're just stuck. There's nothing we can do. All right, this is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Mel Fabregas, Veritas on F2B. And I'm going to get out of here because when I get back, we'll be joined by Mel. Now, we're on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. This is truly bespoke radio for the masses. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I'll be right back with Mel Fabregas.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark. deep with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply, and of course the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Again, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, very special guest, Mel Fabregas, is with us, host of Veritas Radio. Tomorrow night, it's our Total Eclipse special wrap-up. We're going to have Brad Olson here and a few other special guests. We're going to post some pictures of the event that we were just at up at Mount Shasta. And then Thursday night, Ralph Ellis is going to be here live from Europe. We're going to be doing Adam and Eve. And, of course, John Rappaport will open up the show with his No More Fake Newsroom Live. But tonight, it's all about Mel. Very excited about tonight. Doesn't happen often where we get to go host to host, but we're going to do that tonight. And since 2008, I have been listening to Mel and Veritas. He has interviewed everybody. I would like to say that I have. Mel has. And he does cover ufology and the paranormal and conspiracies. He does all of that. But Mel has got a style that I have been drawn to. I want to be Mel. And tonight I want to find out exactly how he got his start and what makes him click. So we're going to do all of that. He does have a bachelor's degree in finance. He's got a master's degree in international business administration from the University of Texas, Tejas. Mel has appeared on the History Channel's Brad Meltzer's Decoded, one of my favorite shows. He's been on all of the shows. I got to get him on Coast to Coast. I wonder if Mel, I got to ask him about that. Maybe we should get Mel on Coast, maybe even this weekend, if he wants to stay up that late. But what Mel does, and I think his journey is to do just that, to bring us the truth. That's what Veritas means. All of those hidden and obscure lost history conspiracy subjects that go from all the way from humanity to even health issues. So we're going to do all of that tonight with Mel, and I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, the one and only Mel Fabregas. Mel, good evening.
Good evening, Jimmy. Hello. Thanks for having me on your show. And Thanks to your wonderful audience for tuning in as well.
Oh, man. Just say Veritas for me once.
Veritas.
Yeah, it's Mel. All right, man. Welcome to the show. And you've been an inspiration for me for a while because, Mel, I study everybody. You know, I listen to all of the great veterans of the past. I'm talking about from the 50s, going back to Long John Nebel, you know, and some of the other, you know, Billy Goodman out in Vegas in the 80s was just amazing stuff. And we had a couple of guys here in LA. Anyway, I just listened to everybody. And when you came along, you had a tone and an attitude that was almost, what's the word I want to use? Juvenile, childlike. You know, you had a question, you wondered, right? And that's, I always appreciated your take on things where you were going at it. And you seemed to me to be unbroadcaster-ish, right? You weren't like all of the others, and you weren't trying to be a personality. And I want you to tell me that I'm right. Am I right about that? Did you pursue a broadcast career?
Not at all. You're 200% absolutely correct. I had no experience. I've probably never held a microphone in my life, but it's a long story that I can discuss if you'd like me to.
Absolutely.
But no, absolutely. I had no intention of becoming a journalist, of becoming an investigator. But in my nature, it was innately in me that I always wanted to ask questions. And it puzzled me that in school, in church, family, friends, if I ever asked questions that did not fit their mold, I was always welcomed with rolling eyes or a sarcastic comment or please don't go there. And I felt shunned and ridiculed. And I thought one day, maybe in the future, something will happen that would allow me to ask these questions. But no, you're absolutely right. I had no intention of becoming a broadcaster. I had no experience. So this happened just one night. Overnight, it just happened.
Now I want to hear this amazing epiphany, because that's exactly what it was. But in the excitement of bringing you on, I forgot the first time guest disclaimer. And it's already up in Twitter. Church, what's going on, man? Are you freaking out? You forgot the first time guest disclaimer, which is this. Mel, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. You ready to go?
Absolutely.
All right. Now we got that out of the way. Next time you're on the show, you don't get it, but you got to know. Everybody has that epiphany, don't they? And you need to take it. If you want to change your life, you recognize what that may be. Most don't, right? Because it also can be a difficult part of the life's journey. But you did not, man. You chose to listen to not follow your dreams, to listen to your dreams. So tell us the story. What happened?
Just imagine somebody who wants to do all of this, but because of the way we're brought up, the society, the schooling, education. You know, I was working for a Fortune 100 company for 13 years. You do not talk about these subjects. And the only reason why I'm able to do what I do now is because I'm self-employed. I mean, right now, I see so many people changing their names in social media. And I always wonder, why do you change your name? And they're telling me, well, because my employer would have access to even some of the pictures can get people fired. So there's this fear. But let me just give you a summary of what happened. I grew up in a small island in the Caribbean, Puerto Rico. And as many people know, we are located in one of the Bermuda Triangle corners. In the 1970s, I remember hearing of this company that was filming a commercial. And they were putting a camera at night on top of one of the tallest buildings. And they wanted to have one of those things where they rolled the entire night for like a 10-second commercial. And all of a sudden, after the producers got the footage, they found a UFO. And they put it in the news. And you could see this light coming from left to right, stopping in a dime, and just boom, out. And I just thought, this is only 5 minutes away from my home. And so that's what really got me interested. Now, fast forward fast forward to the 90s. I moved from Puerto Rico to Florida, to Miami, and bought a house. And I remember I had this alarm. And at night, at 11 o'clock at night, always the alarm would just go off, almost as if there was an intruder. So I would go running downstairs, and I would see that the light was blinking as if something was happening in my bedroom. So it kept happening, and I thought, there must be something wrong. So I disconnected. I turned it off. The next day, I hear a bang on the stairway railing, and I thought, no, this can be possible. 11 o'clock, I woke up, this sound. I go running to the stairway railing, and I touched it, and it was vibrating. And I thought, am I going crazy? Well, anyway, I moved to Mexico. My company sent me there during the implementation of NAFTA, and I moved to an apartment. And not even 2 days later, I wake up at 11 o'clock at night, and the windows are open, and the curtains are flapping. Very scary. And I thought, maybe I left that open. I closed it the next day. I came from work. I went to sleep. I closed it. 11 p.m., the windows open again.
Right on.
At this point, I was very, very disturbed by this.
Right on.
Yeah. Something is trying to communicate with me.
No doubt.
So I go to the office. I'm hiring that day. And all of a sudden, this woman who looked like, no offense, but she looked like a witch. She comes, sits down, interviews with me. And she says, "Sir, I'm sorry, but..." And I hire her on the spot. I don't know why. I usually take my time to hire people, usually 2-3 interviews. But there was a connection with this lady, and I hired her. And at the end, she says, "Sir, you seem a little bit disturbed. What's going on?" And I'm thinking, I just hired you. In my mind, do you want to get fired for becoming so, this is a personal matter. But she said, "May I have your pocket pen, and I'll bring it back to you in the morning." And I thought, well, this is strange, but here you go. The next morning, she comes, and she starts telling me things about my past that nobody knew but me. And she said, "Someone is trying to communicate with you, and you're not letting that entity come through. You need to meditate, you need to practice yoga, meditation, and so on." So anyway, after that happened, the 11 o'clock thing stopped, which I found strange. Now, fast forward that to 6-9 months later. I go to the office, and she comes to the office, and she's upset. And I said to her, "Why are you upset?" And she said, "Because you're leaving." "Well, leaving why? I'm here. I love it here. There's a great opportunity. I love Mexico, its culture, all the sights." And she says, "Well, you're going to get a phone call very soon." 2 days later, the peso devaluation happened in Mexico. And my boss called me from San Francisco and said, "We need to get you out." And I thought, wow, this lady saw that coming.
Wow.
So I go back to the office, and she goes, "You got your phone call, didn't you?" And I'm like, wow. The next day, she comes and she tells me, "Before you go, I want to tell you this." And she tells me, "You're going to lose a next of kin in the next, 6 months." My father passed away a few months after that, the first next of kin. She said, "You're going to be going places, you're going to be going around the world. You're going to marry somebody that looks like this." She described, who's now my wife to a T. I didn't meet my wife until 4 or 5 years later. "You're going to wind up living in a very warm place, but it's very beautiful with a lot of nature." Well, I live in Tucson, and that's exactly the description.
Right.
But then she said, "But most importantly, you will be informing the world. That will be your duty." And I thought, wait a second, we all have to die. My father passed away. Maybe some of us get married. We, may go to live in beautiful places. All could be coincidence.
Right.
But this thing about informing the world,
right?
What is that? And she said, "In due time, it will be revealed to you." Now, fast forward. This is 1993. Fast forward to 2008, after the economy crash in the United States.
Well, okay, so Mel, let me jump in. Between 93 and 2008, I don't want to say but you are you're not in the public, you're in the business sector, you're a professional. Nothing to do with informing the world, you're just doing your thing, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I left the corporate world in 1998, and then I've been in business since then, but nothing paranormal, nothing out of the ordinary.
Right.
So in 2008, I had this dream. I hardly have dreams, but when I do, they are very, very vivid. I'll tell you one later, especially with what's going on now with these ships that are banging into U.S. military vessels. That's another story.
Right.
But in December of 2008, I had this dream that said, take action, take action. It was not even a vision. It's just words, take action. And I remember having learned from the great Anthony Robbins, take action. Those words always with me. But that day, apply it. I hardly ever watch TV, but I was drawn to the remote that day. I turn on the TV, and I see this gentleman with the name of Milton Torres, who was a former U.S. Air Force pilot, who in 1957 was stationed in East Anglia, England. And he was basically told, get up there and fire a missile on that UFO. And I thought, what? This man is saying that publicly? Apparently, the U.S. Minister of Defense, the Ministry of Defense, had declassified some of the UFO documents. And he was finally, after 50 years, able to tell the story. And, CNN, Fox News, everybody was having him on, but just for a few minutes, and nobody was asking real questions. And I thought in my mind, I have to speak with this gentleman. Don't ask me how. I was able to find his telephone number in a matter of minutes. So I called him. And before I called him, I actually went to dinner with my wife. And I said, I'm going to call him, but I have to say that I'm coming from a radio platform. I'm not, this is just me. But how can he believe that I'm from a radio program? What kind of program do you think? A name. Give me a name. And my wife uttered the words, Veritas. And I said, wow, that encompasses everything. So I went ahead, I called Milton Torres, and I said, may I interview you? And he said, absolutely. When? Tomorrow. So I went to Best Buy, I bought a microphone. Very simple. I just wanted to speak with him, to record that conversation as a souvenir for me, selfishly. So I recorded it. I immediately posted it in a few forums. And in less than 24 hours, I was getting hundreds and hundreds of emails from people. Wait a minute, where do you broadcast from? When's the next program? Blah, blah, blah. And I thought, wow, people are believing that I'm really a radio host. And the next person that comes to me was Steve Bassett. And he said, I'd like to come on your show. And I'm thinking, does he even know that I don't have a show? So the second one was with Stephen Bassett. And we did an excellent show. And from there, I was forced to continue. And it raised, it just became a snowball to what Veritas has become today. And of course, in the middle, many things happened. But that's the inception of how this wonderful journey began.
Did you cop a vibe from that with Torres in that that maybe you had some talent that you didn't know about, and that part of it because when you go to broadcast school and you study journalism, I think that, because I did, right? You try a little bit too hard. You're trying to be somebody that you are not.
Yes.
For you, that you didn't have to go through that phase, and you didn't have to go through the phase of grades, right? of taking tests, competing with other students, trying to get jobs in the broadcast world. No, you jumped in because you were doing it for the art of it, and you wanted to have your own gift, right? That's what you were doing, and you wanted to have this conversation and have it preserved. But going through that, did you back off on the end of it and go, hey, you know what? Man, I think Mel might have some talent here that Mel didn't know about.
I didn't go to school for this, but the listeners did grade me. And I did for some reason. I wanted to sound very polished. I used to be a fan of Rod Sterling.
Right.
I loved the way he spoke with Walter Cronkite, that kind of old school 1950s, 60s Americana. You know what I'm talking about. But the listeners did criticize me at the beginning because they said, relax, you sounded like Mr. Roboto. And I used to laugh about that. And I look back and I listened to some of the old interviews and I think, I cannot believe I used to talk like that.
I know.
And then later, as the years went by, I decided I just need to relax. I just need to be myself. I need to just have a conversation. I used to speak very loud. I need to modulate myself better. And then, listen to people like you that make me sound like a chipmunk. Right. But, it's a matter of doing what you like and loving what you do. Once you find that niche in your life, there's nothing else. I still have my other businesses. I have a family. But when I do this is just a vacation every time I do it. I wish I could do it more often. I just don't have the time. But it's just a wonderful thing to every week open new doors. The problem is, I used to think that I knew a lot. But every time, and I think this happens to you and our colleagues, when you interview someone and they bring you new nuggets of wisdom, you realize how much you don't know and how much more you want to learn.
It's amazing how that happens, because I did a life of research before. Full on, going back to when I was a kid. I did everything that I could to soak up the paranormal and Edgar Cayce and Von Daniken from the early 70s. I read all that. I saw all the I did it all. And I thought that I had a pretty solid footing. And I realize now that I don't. I don't. I need to interview, man. I need to do that. I need to just constantly be a sponge. What I learn every day, I'm appreciative of, but it definitely causes me to step back and go, I don't know nothing. I don't. I really don't. There's so much to learn out there. Every single day you flip over a rock, Mel, you know better than anybody. You do it and you're like, well, okay, I don't know nothing. This world is a crazy, crazy place, this universe. And that's the best part of this job. When you find your bliss like you have, then you are able to just keep your mind open. Keep it open and keep soaking it in. And that's what you do on Veritas. I've always been a great admirer of that. You question everything. You're skeptical in a healthy way. But you just ask the right questions at the right time. When did you start to figure out that you were getting your questions correct? I know you listened to the old stuff and you were like, that was just awful, but, but when did you start to feel like, okay, I've got my style here. I know now how to ask a question.
I would say probably after the third season.
Yeah, it's about right.
I thought this now, if you do it for 1 year, it's practice. Right. If you do it for 2 years, well, you're going. But if you're still standing after the third year and people are still listening to us, and remember, we don't have any commercials. The only people that support us are our subscribers. And I wanted to keep it that way. I don't want to be chasing sponsors that may be telling me, hey, don't talk about this, don't talk about that, because it did happen. We did it on the second year. We started people coming to us and said, we want to be your sponsor, but you cannot go here and there. And I thought, there's no way in the world. I thought this is going to be the Consumer Reports of alternative media.
Right.
I don't know if when you were growing up, you were reading Reader's Digest. I used to love reading Reader's Digest just because it was so varied. It included so many aspects of life from A to Z, the full spectrum. When I started the program, my motivation was UFOs. I was fascinated, and I still am. But after a year of doing just simply UFO shows, I thought there's more to this than that. I mean, the UFO shows brought me incredibly. Why would this happen? To the Federal Reserve. What does the Federal Reserve have to do with UFOs? And from the Federal Reserve, it took me to alternative health. And when you look at all these things, they're all connected. And then they took me to the mainstream mediaopoly. And I'm thinking, perhaps the brainwashing that people are experiencing is not just the education. It's the media, for example. I don't mean to sound condescending. I don't mean to deviate from what we're discussing. But I bet if the mainstream media said that you could watch the eclipse through a magnifying glass, half the population would go blind. I'm very concerned about how many people follow the mainstream media as almost a dogma. I don't know if that happens to you.
It does. It's 100% what's going on. And I have said that when I started to make the discovery on how everything is connected, I have said, Mel, you're going to laugh. I have said I can connect the Great Pyramid in Egypt to a Ford Pinto car tire. I can do it. It's all and everything in between. Connecting UFOs to the Fed, that's actually easy, right? That's child's play, right? But it's funny how everything is connected, and that's the joy of doing this show. You do the same thing when you have a guest that appreciates that, and you are able to take these left and right turns and keep things connected, because it shows the audience just that. It's all it really, really is. And when you start to make that revelation that it's all connected, when people say that, you need to give them examples. But when people say it, I think a lot of the times they don't actually understand the heaviness or the meaning of that word, or those kinds of words. But the media, our education, our money system, our military-industrial complex, the news today, our children are all connected to the lost history of this world, previous generations that are lost in time, to the ET phenomena, to life after death, to consciousness, to parallel worlds, and to Silicon Valley. It's all connected.
Absolutely. I know you have a break coming up soon, so I don't know if I should stop or continue.
Well, okay. I have the question that I know you get it all the time. I get it all the time, but you can answer it quickly. But who is your favorite interview?
Who is my favorite interview? It's one of those questions that I don't like to answer just because I don't want to offend any of our great guests. I have plenty of great interviews, but I have to say the late, great Jim Marrs.
There you go.
The late, great Jim Marrs. I was privileged to some people say that there was an interview conducted on Coast to Coast the morning where he passed away. I haven't been able to find it, but some people are telling me that I was privileged to have interviewed him last. And during the years that I knew Jim, and I know he was a dear friend of yours, every time I spoke with Jim, there was something new. And it was always like a kid in a candy store. Every time that I was going to be interviewing Jim, I would devour his books before the interview, have 25 pages of notes. And that's the type of interview that I really enjoy, because I know that after it's done and it's going to stay there in posterity, people are going to love it next year, next decade, and so on.
Yeah, he meant so much. And then over this past weekend, we lost somebody. Bill Tompkins died over the weekend, and we were up doing the conference up there with Corey and Jay Widener and Michael Sala, and Bill was part of that circle of a team of researchers and
love all of them. Yeah,
and talk about taking the wind out of everybody's sails. Whew, man, but there you go. Jim Marrs, he did it right. He did it right, and he lived life exactly as he wanted to do it, and he was able to influence so many. But I'm right with you right there. Jim Marrs is probably every one that I did was the best one. And so thank you for pointing that out, Mel. Let's take a quick break. Our guest tonight, Mel Fabregas. This is Veritas on F2B. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly Ancient Life Oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hard shell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tappy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Mel Fabregas. This is Veritas on Fade to Black. Doesn't get any better than that. Mel, I wanted to ask you. Let's kind of go here. Let's start to have some fun. Is there any zone that you won't go into when it comes to bringing on a guest, and when it comes to a zone that you're feeling funky about? Do you challenge your guests?
That's a difficult question. Just because I don't believe in censorship, I believe in free speech, I don't want anybody to tell me, don't go here, don't go there. There's an area that makes me uncomfortable to discuss, not because I don't want to discuss it, just because of how evil it is. And I'm talking about Pizzagate. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about child trafficking. Right. I discussed this many, many years ago in one show that I did with a great journalist with the name of Nick Bryant. Mm-hmm. He wrote a book about the Franklin scandal.
Yep.
I was new to that. And when I read that huge book, how can I explain? 9/11, first of all, took my innocence away. Just for people who are listening to us, I know there are many people who woke up because of 9/11. Before 9/11, anything the media said, I used to just eat it, hook, line, and sinker. And then one of my brothers after 9/11 came to me and said, by the way, he worked in the airline industry, by the way. And he said, by the way, nothing crashed at the Pentagon. And here's proof. And when he said that to me, I thought, how dare you imply that our well-intentioned government had anything to do with this? I didn't speak to him for months. But in silence, I started looking into 9/11, and I thought, my goodness, we have been fooled. So, fast forward to this Franklin scandal issue, which happened in the 80s, but I wasn't aware of it until I read that book. I thought, I cannot believe there are so many deranged people within our own government, people that we elect, thinking these are the people I want my kids to listen to and emulate. And these are the people that are behind all these, child trafficking and child porn and all this. This is an area that I don't like to go and discuss too much, because I've realized from that interview, which became very popular, but at the same time, people sometimes said to me, it's like roadkill. We know the corpse is right there, but we just want to walk by and don't even look at it.
That's right.
So that's an area that I don't like to discuss. Anything else goes. If it matters to us, if we have to find out what his story truly is, and we need to just go back and rewrite the books to what they used to be and rediscover our true origins, that is actually my favorite. This is what really motivates me. It's the catalyst. Every time I interview someone, I want to find something about our past that allows us to have a better future, which seems to me that the powers that want to be have been erasing our history so that we don't unlock our full potential. If you had to ask me, Mel, what's the biggest conspiracy? I would tell you the biggest conspiracy of all is the secret to our own potential. So in summary, I go wherever the truth is. It doesn't matter how hard it is. I would rather it be painful than live in a lie and be comfortable, as it is the case with most people.
The Franklin scandal, and we're not going to discuss that right now, but I did the exact same thing. I put that book down, and because it was based on fact. That's the other twisted thing here, right? This wasn't, it was and presented in such a way that for most people, including myself, the reality of this actually happening at the highest levels of government was a game changer for me. And it frightened me at the same time. And you're absolutely right. It's difficult to talk about. It's even more difficult just to think about and contemplate. Right? That book was a game changer for me. But I do the same thing, Mel. I tend to leave that alone. I went through the Sandusky scandal, and when that broke, we were the first, if not one of the, it was by seconds, by the way, to report on this and to break that story. And we had done that on a Friday. And we went through Friday morning live on the air, and we went through everything over the weekend, getting crazy email, crazy stuff that we broke. A couple of networks had contacted us, and is this true? By Monday morning, finally, CNN broke the story. ESPN didn't touch it all weekend. Nobody touched the story, and it was rough. Well, suddenly we were thrust into this pedophilia specialist journalist thing. And I did a comedy sports show. Right? I did a comedy sports show. And now all of a sudden I am dealing with this every single day. And it was the headline news. I'm getting fed information, and I couldn't do it anymore. I did it for it was probably every day for 6 weeks. And one day I was like, I'm done. I just cannot. And I just won't. So when Pizzagate started to break and some of these other things, and I realized that's part of our reality, but it makes me ill, right? It physically messes with me, and I can't do it. I can't. I'll let other professionals out there deal with it, and they can deal with it very well. I just can't do it here. I can't. It just messes with my head. So I do respect that take. But what about something like Flat Earth? Okay. Oh. What about something like that? Have you had on any of the Flat Earth guys?
I have. In fact, you have no idea how many have written to me this afternoon after you posted that I was going to be on your show. They said to me, you better find a way to bring up Flat Earth with Jimmy. So, You asked. I didn't want to bring it up.
Oh, okay.
Have you discussed it?
I've had on Mark Sargent on the show.
Yes.
I've had, and I told Mark going into the show, I was like, dude, really, I have an open mind about everything. I do. Let's, bring it. Let's talk about it. I want to learn. But, dude, the earth is round. So we're going to have a hard show here. And he said, you know what, Jimmy, let's just put it all on the table and let's have a good old-fashioned fist fight. And however it comes out in the end, let's just have some fun with it. All right. But, and I did it that one time. And, but with you, when something like that comes up, where we have all of the scientists that were persecuted and jailed and put to death, yelling that the Earth was round and not the center of the known universe and everything else, that it went around the sun and it was round, and the oceans don't end. You can keep sailing your boat; it's not going to fall. Because before that, everybody believed that the Earth was flat. So we go through all of this to finally scientifically show everybody that it was round. And now we want to go back for all of those guys, the men and women that died and, were jailed over this. I think that's really muddies some very important names out there. That's my take. I mean, why go and do it?
Well, let me just say, first of all, my hat's off to you if you had somebody, anyone in the flat earth community, and I know Mark Sargent is a very respected researcher, but to me, it was different. This is May of 2015. We had a forum at our website, and they started posting all of this, and I started getting emails from people, hey, Mel, what do you think about this? And like anyone, I would say, please don't bother me. Spam, 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 spam. Don't even bother me with this. This is ridiculous. I collect globes. I even have a Tiffany globe that they gave me when I left the corporate world that I cherish a lot. So the globe was very important to me. In May of 2015, I decided, one person that I know, a very, very successful Canadian entrepreneur, came to me and said, look, you know me. I'm not a fool. I am well-educated, and I please ask you, as a courtesy to me and my friendship towards you, please watch this video. And it was an Eric Dubé video, and I watched it from beginning to end, and I just could not believe what I was watching. And some of the things he was saying made so much sense. The fact that we have never seen an image from NASA of our planet Earth, and every single one of them, and I've checked all of them, at least the ones that are public, year after year after year, the Earth looks different. The continents look different. The U.S. looks bigger one time. It goes on a diet the next one. Africa looks smaller in one. The colors are different. The Japanese pictures, the Chinese, the Russians, they're all different. You would think that the 21st century, we would have a satellite that could turn and take a picture of our planet, or even have a camera on the moon that takes an image of planet Earth 24/7, but we don't have a single image. Then I always tell this story. And again, I'm not saying that I'm a flat earther.
No.
I'm saying I'm open to the possibilities. And I have a lot of questions, and nobody seems to be able to answer. The only thing they say is, my God, Mel, cannot believe it. I'm unsubscribing. You are going off the deep end. Right. And I say to that what my friend David Wise said to me today, condemnation without investigation is the admission of your indoctrination. I have a beach home in Mexico, and every time in the afternoon, I see another side of Baja California, and I can see the mountains from top to bottom. And I was on a ship, on a boat a few weeks ago, and I asked the captain, by the way, do you have the binoculars? Can you look? Can you tell me how many miles away are we from that mountain range over there? Hey, oh, yeah, sure. It's 87.8 miles. So then I went home at night, and I went to earthcurvature.com, and I posted the distance, the height of the peak, and then I could not believe it. That peak should be 4,500 feet under the curvature. So these are the things that when I ask somebody, they immediately dismiss it, saying this is just bunk. Science has proven that otherwise. When you have a balloon that it goes up 100,000 feet, and you still see the horizon at eye level. You're flying a plane, you climb a mountain, you always see the same thing. So I'm open. I'm open to the possibilities. I'm not saying one or the other, but I'm not convinced that we live on a sphere either.
Right. And I respect all of that. Now, listening to that, now check this out. This is one of the things that, I'm going to give you three things right now as quickly as I can. I used to live on this, it was connected, but like an island down in Panama. It's called Fort Amador at the Canal Zone, right? And it's a causeway. It's connected. It's built. It's man-made. It's built out of the rocks that they took out of the Panama Canal, and they built this man-made base, and it's called Fort Amador. Now, off in the now this is on the entrance on the Pacific side to the Panama Canal. So outside of my house, I could literally walk 50 yards. I'm looking at ships. I'm looking at the Panama Canal. Now, off in the distance, 12 miles away, is an island called Toboga. And you could get in a ferry, a little hotel out there and a nice little beach with a shark net. And sharks down there do like to eat people. So anyway, so there's a shark. Nice island. Go out there and drink and have a good time. You take a ferry out there. Take about 45 minutes. Now, the Panama Canal, all day long, these ships are coming in. I don't know. They're probably 2 hours apart. Huge, freight liners, freighters coming through, oil, whatever, Navy ships, submarines. And you see them, and they're in a line, and they're coming through. But I would say to myself, where are the boats? Right? These huge, massive car carriers that are 20, 30 stories sticking out of above the huge, hundreds and hundreds of feet long, big, massive boats. But I can't see them. And they would just come from over the horizon. They'd be in a straight line and slowly make. I was like, wow, okay. Well, one day I take my first trip to Toboga, this island, jump on the ferry, and we're going out. And as I'm getting closer to Toboga, I see the mast of these ships over the horizon. And as we get closer and closer and closer, I would see, and then as we got to Toboga, I saw, because of the curvature of the earth, what's on the other side of the horizon, was this parking lot of ships. There was 100 of them, 100 of these freighters that I never saw from my house. But as I went out to Toboga, there they were. And I was like, oh, right over the horizon, there was this world out there that I never knew. And it was, when I say a parking lot of freighters, you need to picture this. It's tens of miles wide, tens of miles deep, with 100 super freighters parked there. Now, explain that. If you want to say the earth is flat, I'm telling you, my eyeballs, my experience, myself, that happens. And so if it was flat, I would have seen all of these ships from my house, which I never did. And so climb up to the top of the island at Toboga. I look down, and I'm looking at these ships from above, very high peak. And I'm looking down, I'm looking at my house, and I'm looking at this pile of ships over here. And I'm like, wow, that was out there this whole time, and I never knew it. Why? Because of the curvature of the earth. Now, this is the second point I want to bring up. All of the flat earthers want to say part of their evidence is, the curve of airplane windows, the curve of your eye, there's curve everywhere is making it look like the horizon is not flat, that it's curved, and that the earth is curved, and so forth. And that is part of the mass deception out there, that you are looking through curves all the time to give everything this curved look. Okay, great. So if that is the case, Mel, as far as I know, your head is round. You've got a nice round head. I'm looking at your picture right here. You've got a nice round head. And so what you're telling me is that if you, Mel, or any flat earther, would hold a basketball next to your head, basketball's round, your head is round, and you went 15 miles away, and I'm looking at you through a set of binoculars where these buildings now are standing straight. They should be curved because they're 12 miles away, 20 miles away. Well, then your head actually, if I'm looking at it through a telescope, should be now inverted. And the basketball is now no longer round. Is that what you're telling me? It's either or. It's either or. It's not both. And I'm here to tell you, Mel, your head is round. And it's going to be round from 20 miles away, just like it is when you're standing next to me. It's not going to be distorted with binoculars. It's not going to be distorted with a telescope. It's not going to be distorted with the window of an airplane cabin. It's just not.
Just because we have a basketball court that's flat doesn't mean that we can play ball, or a pool table that has balls. But I have the same thing that happened with you. I used to see ships, and you'd see the mast, and it would just disappear over the horizon. But after I saw all these videos coming out, I got my camera with a very powerful zoom, and I started looking, and I would even have my wife next to me. And by the way, she thinks I'm crazy for me even bringing the flat earth up whenever we're in Mexico. I show her, like, don't give me that now, please. Don't embarrass me in front of our friends. Don't even say it. So I put my camera, and I zoom it. What was there 5 minutes ago, it's back. I can't see with my own eyes. But I could just look at the horizon, and there are plenty of fishing boats there at any given time that you cannot see. But when I do zoom, I can see all these boats appear on my camera. How do you explain that?
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And I am sure that there are all kinds of things that come into play here. Atmosphere, heat, gravity, sunlight, all of that stuff will create an optical illusion that is amplified through optics. I am sure of that. Look, we all love a good conspiracy. We all do. It would be great if something like this was real, but it's not. But okay, so I'll say this. This is what is really fascinating. I think this is what I really think. Just like yourself or any flat earther out there, they like a good debate. Okay, it's like being on the debate team. Okay, you're going to do this, and you are going to argue this point. Whether you believe it or not, let's have a good debate, and let's practice how to debate. I think that's basically it. All the flat earthers out there, the guys that are posting these videos and have all these facts, they know the earth is round. They're just having fun digging up the possibility and presenting these facts and getting the argument going. And that's
I wouldn't be so sure. I wouldn't be so sure. In fact, what bothers me about both sides, the ball earthers and the flat earthers, is sometimes their debate becomes so heated that they have this ad hominem attacks all the time. You and I are talking. I'm saying that I'm open-minded. I am open to the possibilities. If I can confirm by scientifically, NASA, provide me more evidence. I saw an amateur rocket last year that went up 100,000 feet, and all of a sudden, in the morning, you could see the moon. And I plotted the time, and at that time, when the moon was there, it was not supposed to be visible. It was supposed to be over Australia. So when I see these things, I ask questions, but I do it in a very, very professional manner. I don't mean to attack anybody. Mm-hmm. People they ridicule you for even asking. That's the problem. And this is why I don't discuss the subject that much, because people get offended. They are so, I don't mean to be condescending, but we are so brainwashed, not only on the earth or flat earth, but there are so many other topics. There's no cure for cancer. Once you have cancer, you're done. Once you have this disease, you're done. And people just go to the doctors. They don't question. And they don't know that there are solutions to those answers. And by the way, I'm going to say it publicly here, in case people wonder why I had to cancel my other health show. It's because of this. When you get phone calls in the middle of the night with a morphed voice that says, don't do it anymore, right, or don't go here, or don't go there. Maybe that's something that has happened to you, but you have to be stupid sometimes. When you ask me, are there certain things you don't talk about? And the answer is sometimes yes. Because I want to be able to be as old as possible, so that when I'm old and dying, I want to be able to see the jigsaw puzzle on my wall almost complete. Not to mention I want to be here for my daughter. You want to be here for your kids. You don't want to be so stupid to completely confront the powers that be to a point that they just subvert you or destroy you.
Well, and that's a really good way to look at it. I will never censor. I will never be told what to do for sure, right? That is never going to happen. But there are certain zones that I don't go into for my own ethical reasons, and they're not selfish reasons. It's a morality issue and an ethical issue, but that's it. But as far as censorship goes, I'm so with you. Nobody's ever going to dictate to me what to do. Before we leave here for this next break, one last thing on the flat earthers. This is where I do have a very, 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 very strong belief and issue with. If the earth was flat, first off, what would it matter? Does it change life? Does it change anything about what you and I are doing or anybody else? It does not. Doesn't change a thing. That's point number one. Point number two. Yeah,
we'll take it over in the other segment, but to me, it does matter, and I'll tell you why later.
Okay, we can do that. Now, but the other part is that means that just about every pilot, every police officer, every fireman, every professional, every teacher, every educator, every publisher, every politician, scientist, religious leader, world leader on the planet is in on it. And that I can't buy into. I can't buy into it. We're talking about not a conspiracy with NASA, but a conspiracy with everybody but Mel, right? Everybody but me is in on it, and that's a little bit tough to digest. So that's where I feel a little bit comfortable in my position here. I think it's round. I'm feeling pretty good about that, Mel.
I have an answer. You want it now?
Yeah, go.
Well, basically, when you have if you have hamsters, if you've ever had mice, the first thing they do when you put them in their little glass bowl, the first thing they do is they look for an exit. If they don't have an exit, they just, okay, we're done. We have an exit. We don't have an exit. And they start putting these little toys for them to play and the wheels. And that's how they spend their life, because they know or they think there's not an exit. But what if, I just entertain this for a moment, what if the flat earth is real and we are surrounded, instead of the South being just going down to Antarctica, it's actually surrounding a ring of ice. Imagine if beyond that ring of ice, there are other, let's call them puddles, like Earth, with civilizations like us, perhaps more advanced, perhaps less advanced. If that is possible, I mean, right now there's something going on in Antarctica. Otherwise, what would so many high-ranking members of society would be going there? But if it's a ring around us and there are worlds beyond it, wouldn't that matter to you? To be able to find what other civilizations of humans, if they're human, or perhaps what we call extraterrestrials, could be beings from those ponds that come as tourists to visit us here. Those are things to ponder. So yes, if that is a possibility, why not seek the truth?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe there is something going on in Antarctica, but the southern variety. But I really think that they don't want us to know what's going on down there. And you know what? When we come back, we'll continue to address this, because when it comes to dogma and the education system, we are definitely living the big lie. Our guest tonight, Mel Fabregas. This is Veritas on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
Hi, I'm Matt Ray for U.S. Gold Bureau. I cover the market daily. No matter how strong it gets or what long-term predictions say, you can count on one thing as certain. There will be another crash. It will affect your assets. And when it happens, wouldn't you rather be 2 weeks or even 2 months ahead of the curve? Well, Wall Street insiders have been quietly converting their assets into gold for the last few years. Now it's your turn. Buying gold and silver is easier than buying stocks with the U.S. Gold Bureau's Investor Guide. It's free, and you learn how to buy precious metals in or out of an IRA or 401k retirement plan. Your investments ship directly to your home and is 100% insured and guaranteed. You control your investments and shelter them against the stock market, politics, and unknown threats. Act while your dollar is still worth something. Call U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD. U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD, 800-885-GOLD. Call today.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRAradio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Mel Fabregas, Veritas on Fade to Black. Been waiting for this. Great to hear his voice. See, the thing is, it is really, you know, Mel, you got the pipes, man. Everybody knows who you are from miles away. You know, it's really you. Now, so what you're saying is you're open to the idea that the Earth is round.
I'm open to the idea that the Earth is flat, round, spherical, whatever it is. But I'm just saying that I'm not convinced with what NASA has provided us. Even, we can discuss the Apollo mission if you like, but I have doubts about that too. But then again, I talked to other people. I talked to, the late Edgar Mitchell. I talked to somebody who's going to come on the show whose father allegedly worked at Area 51, and now that the father is gone, he's able to discuss certain things. And he's telling me that we did go to the moon. So I'm open. I move with the evidence.
You have to. And that's we're going to go to this next subject. Again, it's all connected, which is this. We have been told our entire life, every book, every educational history system in the world has told us, and the focus has been on ancient Egypt, but Mesopotamia, Sumer, 3000 BC, the wheel, fire, mathematics, agriculture, religion, science, engineering, all happened, at 3000 BC. And that before that, man was running around foraging for seeds, right? And then Göbekli Tepe gets discovered, and which simply wasn't supposed to exist, and certainly not 7,000 years prior to 3000 BC. But it is still, generally speaking, ignored. History books aren't being rewritten right now, and nobody wants to try to figure out what's going on. Göbekli Tepe should be the headline story on all the mainstream media since 1995, 1996. It is not. And part of that is because it's going to have to rewrite all of that dogma that we have been spoon-fed. And that is an example of part of the big lie, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And I mentioned to you that I lived in Mexico. And this is the first time that when it really hit me. I was in the middle of downtown, next to the cathedral, and I see these white blankets covering an area. And it said, "Do not enter." This white tarps. And of course, inquisitive me, I decided to just, peek in and what's going on here. All of a sudden, I see a bunch of people with little brushes, looking on the floor. And I finally was escorted out. But I asked, "Can you please tell me what's going on here?" Well, we found that under the cathedral, there was a Mayan temple. And then I started looking at other churches around Latin America. And the same thing happened in 99.9% of the time. When they built a cathedral or a big church, they were erasing the previous history. They didn't want the people in the quote-unquote new world to be looking at what those Mayans, the Aztecs, the Incas did in the past. And the same thing happens with us here. You mentioned Göbekli Tepe. Same thing. Why is that not in the history books? Why is it that and Jay Weiner and I talk about this all the time, why is there, and Graham Hancock, by the way, send prayers to him, very important. When you look at this gap of information, almost as if there's a cataclysm, and before that we have the pyramids, we have a lot of these all of a suddens that came around the world, Baalbek in Lebanon, pyramids in Southeast Asia, all these almost as if they were in contact with one another because the architecture is similar. Either they were able to extract the knowledge from, let's call it the Akashic Record or the ether, or perhaps they actually were the same civilization, what we call Atlantis or Lemuria or whatever. But I think that our history has been completely hijacked from us, and we had more power and advanced technology during that time than we could possibly imagine thousands of years later now. But what do we call them? Oh, those soulless savages, they just didn't know what they were doing. Well, if that's the case, then please tell me, why can't we replicate any of these megaliths around the world?
End of story.
That's it.
It is.
Period.
End of story. And so let me ask you about that. When one starts to make these revelations in your brain about things like Giza. Giza is a great example because it's the most famous, number one. It's one of the most studied, but it's also very obvious, and so we have wondered about it growing up. So it's an easy target. So let's just stay with that for a second. If for you had your own investigation and research as a child and everything with Giza and Egypt and King Tut, and so you're told one thing, you see it in movies and books, and then as you start to interview those out there, the Graham Hancocks and the Bovals, which we've all, as you start to discover things, when did you start to realize, because it's a big paradigm shift. When did you start to realize that Giza is not what we have been told? And if that is the case, then it's all a bunch of BS.
Well, everybody has a different opinion. Some people say that it was a power plant. Some were saying that it was something else. Some were saying that the way it had a gold, the what do you call the pinnacle of the pyramid? The capstone. And it was used so that the soul of the pharaoh would be transferred to another child. And that's why we would see the Pharaoh dying at such an early age. These are theories presented by other people. But you start thinking, maybe that's why these pharaohs were considered pharaohs, just like the what do you call it? The main person of Buddha, what is the person in the Tibetan monks? What's the highest person there?
The Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama. Same thing. What if they knew of a way in which consciousness would be transferred from one person to the other, and that's how we could live forever? So the pyramids is an enigma in so many ways. I mean, before there was water in that area, you have the Sphinx, that the phase was completely changed to what it was before. But again, I don't think that the ego presented to us by these textbooks and the Rothschilds, who are behind the educational system and the health system, they don't want us to be just this rediscovering our true past. Because then, if that's the case, we're going to go before that. Why is it that it's just the pyramids? What about other things that we are finding? The Yanaguni pyramids under the sea in Japan, which some people say are natural formations. But when you start looking at the work of Graham Hancock and others, scuba diving, and seeing how it's straight and then 90-degree angles, you have to ask yourself, why is this knowledge being hidden from us? As you were saying before with the flat earth, why can't we just say, what does it matter if we live in a flat earth or a sphere? Well, because when we find the truth about our past and we find out that it's a lie, then it makes you wonder what else they're lying about.
Why is it that we are so easily deceived? And I'll give you an example before you answer that. We just talked about everything being created at 3000 BC. Before 3000 BC, is certainly what history has been taught to us is that one day there was nothing, and the next day sculptures, pyramids, quarrying of red granite being moved around these deserts, Baalbek, and mathematics and true north and geometry and cultivating wheat and domestic, all of this stuff happened. Suddenly we had a perfectly upright and walking civilization. That's what they actually wanted us and want us to believe, as impossible as that sounds. But we took the bait, Mel. We didn't question that. Why is it that we are so easily deceived?
Well, let me just say what Edgar Mitchell told me the one time we spoke. He said to me, my parents came from horse and buggy to New Mexico from the East Coast. And in 66 years, or less than 100 years, actually, I went to the moon. So this explosion of technology happened in the past 100 years. But when it comes to all that, why is it that we are not told that perhaps humans existed and had more technology? I mean, what happens right now if there's another cataclysm, or as Dr. Paul Laviolette, for example, a Carrington event? We're going to be without electricity for many, many years. But let's say it's a nuclear attack or what have you. And then all of a sudden, the few survivors in the future, they start digging and they start seeing plastic. Oh, these were the plastic people.
Right.
And they see an iPhone and what's this little square? Maybe these are bricks to build a wall and laptops and computers. They wouldn't be able to know what to do with them.
That's right.
Zachariah Sitchin, when he told me, what happens with these papers I have in my left hand or these cuneiform tablets on my right hand, which one do you think will survive the test of time?
That's right.
And of course, we know which one it is. So instead of criticizing our ancestors, why don't we look more as to what they did and try to understand how they were able to live perhaps in, I don't want to sound new agey, but something tells me there was unity consciousness at one point in our past, perhaps one language, if we actually use our mouths. I think that in the past we had the ability to communicate mentally, telepathically, telekinesis, precognition, all these things were there in the past. Perhaps we even lived a longer time, even the Bible. And I'm not a religious person, but the Bible says that in First Testament over 1,000 years, and then it went down to like 200. So what happened to our longevity? and then you have GMOs, and then you have the electromagnetic wave and soup that we live in right now. It makes you wonder if this legalization of cannabis, this push that we're seeing, is perhaps because, we have 5G coming. This is an unproven, uncharted territory. What will happen in the future? Could more cancer be happening? And this is why they know that cannabis is good for, it actually can cure cancer, and perhaps they need to release that so that the population doesn't just disappear.
Right. Well, animals, without a doubt, communicate without talking.
Right.
There's no question about that. And one of the most fascinating things to me, and it's been proven over and over again, not the same time of day, it could be any time, but your dog, if you are driving up the street, knows you are coming home, right? And will be at the door when you get there. Mm-hmm. He knows. He doesn't hear you. He doesn't see you. He doesn't, see you turning the corner a mile away at a stoplight. He doesn't see any of that, but he knows you're coming home. There is some kind of communication that happens with animals and the way that they are able to do that we lost. I totally agree with that. Whether it's technology that has forced us away from that, distracted with television and news and newspapers and maybe even books, work. A lot of things have taken us away from the self. That 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, entertainment was the stars. That was that was the 4D TV. That was the high-res cinema, was looking up at the stars. And there was a communication of self with everybody because they didn't have those distractions. They knew what the brain could do, what the soul could do. I really, really believe that. I don't know how or why we got away from it, but I think that we are starting to realize that there was something from the past, and we are going to continue to try to discover what the ancients knew. And we're getting closer every day.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Thousands of people died or disappeared, but there was one tribe in Indonesia, all of it survived, except for one person who was a paraplegic person who could not summon help. But all those people from that tribe, I don't know if they followed other animals or they had their instinct to go up the mountain. So something tells me that our indigenous people around the world still hold that secret. Either they have the capability because they're not very programmed and they still have that connection with planet Earth, but we need to be able to reconnect with that. That's why I tell people, disconnect yourself from the subliminal tube. Disconnect yourself from TVs. And I did an experiment a few weeks ago. I went to, vacation in the Caribbean with my wife and daughter. And for the first time in years, I decided to leave my phone in the hotel. I said to myself, I'm on vacation. I'm with my wife. She's the only one that needs to call me. So I left it behind. I bought myself a camera. And I'm telling you, I felt so much relieved and connected with my family and my environment. These people that leave their jobs to go on vacation and they're still connected, checking their email, checking their texts all the time. Perhaps this is just the beginning of how to reconnect with the world. Earthing. Another thing that I discovered a couple of years ago. I used to think this is just pure baloney. But I tested the earthing. And every pain that I had on my knee or my back went away. I sleep like a baby, and I recommend it to everybody. If you don't have the mats, go out on the beach, go out on the forest, take your shoes off, do it every so often. And I'm telling you, it's going to help you, your life psychologically, physically, mentally. Such an important thing.
Now, what we've gone through a few of these pop culture things that have been running around our community the last couple of years. And I have to say, the Mandela effect, Mel, it continues to mess with me, to mess with my head and my own memories. I can listen to everybody else's experiences and what they remember. That's fine. That's great. But I have my own memories that are being messed with here too. Have you been experiencing the same thing?
Absolutely. When I heard the term first, I thought, come on now, this is just another psyop, like they call the flat earth, right? But then I started looking at how I used to remember the Flintstones, how I used to remember Fruit Loops, or any of these, the Bearstein Bears,
right?
All these things, and I remember them one way. And then all of a sudden they're completely changed, and I'm looking at eBay, I'm looking at, places that sell all their, old stuff, and it's written incorrectly as I remember it. Some people say that maybe CERN has something to do with it. Perhaps, we are merging into another parallel timeline. Who knows? But it hits me every so often. I remember Mandela, but having died years ago, before, he died a few years ago. I remember that. All of a sudden they say, oh, Mandela just died. And I thought he was dead. And the same thing happens with other people.
I tell you what, so many different examples, but you know what really brought it home for me was cup of noodles.
Cup of noodles.
Right. So now I've been eating cup of noodles since high school. My dad, okay, won't bore everybody with that. But anyway, it's cup o' noodles. And when I see cup noodles today, and I go back and I look at all of the images going back 25, 30 years to the mid-'70s, and they all say cup noodles. And no, it was cup of noodles, man. There's no way. So, yeah, Steve Murillo, right, from MUFON?
No.
Oh, okay, well, anyway, he ran MUFON here for 13 years in Los Angeles, and now he runs another organization called UPARS. But Steve, United States Naval Academy grad, went into the Marine Corps as a fighter pilot. Very accomplished guy, very smart guy. I respect him a lot. We're out to dinner with him a couple of weeks ago, and the Mandela effect comes up at dinner. Right? And I turn to him, and I go, so what is it, man? Is it cup of noodles or cup noodles? He's like, what are you talking about? It's cup of noodles, of course. I said, no, it's cup noodles. Take out my phone, right? I'm showing him. And he's like, no. So then, check this out, Mel. I said, okay, the next person that walks by the table, and we're at a very nice restaurant. Next person that comes by. And we pick somebody out, walk by the table, and I said, okay, come here for a second. You're going to settle a bet between me and my friend here. $100 is on the table. Is it cup noodles, right? Or is it it's cup of noodles. Eat them all the time, cup of noodles. Are you sure? Yes. Now, I bet you can go up and nearly hit 100% on this. How can millions of people have the wrong memory? Millions, not 2 or 3, not just you and I, but we're talking about millions of people involved with this phenomenon. There is something twisted going on.
Why do you think it's causing it, in your opinion?
I think CERN is a big possibility, but there's another. I do believe that because CERN is an experiment that they don't know the end results. They are doing things out there willy-nilly, right? Let's just let's collide these and see what happens. There's that, but up in Silicon Valley with quantum computers and the research that is going on there now. I'll send you some stuff later. The company that has built the quantum computer here in Southern California at USC. There's another one up at Google. There's another one at Lawrence Livermore. 3. The CEO of that company did this big presentation, and he goes out last year, as you remember. A bunch of these billionaires up in Silicon Valley started talking about us living in a matrix, right? That there is a possibility this could be ones and zeros, and this could be. Well, the reason why they were saying that is the way that quantum computers work with a qubit instead of a bit with a qubit is they are taking advantage of the state of the qubit in another dimension, parallel world. And when you get into quantum theory and quantum mechanics, the multi-worlds theory is part of that theorem. So, but what they started to find out, the only way that they could get these quantum computers to work was to get these qubits to, if you had, instead of having 1 million transistors on a chip, on a quantum computer, there's 2,000 qubits. not 10 or 20 million transistors. There's only 2,000 right now. But they take advantage of the quantum states of these qubits in infinite worlds. So now you have infinite amounts of transistors or possibilities on a chip. They figured that out in Silicon Valley. And the only way to answer to that with a straight face is we have parallel worlds. And it's real. And so now, if all of this is starting to get proven on a scientific level, black and white out of Silicon Valley with these engineers, then therefore these parallel worlds that are next to you and I, to our right and to our left, at an infinite amount, that possibly we get a little convergence into this world where we're starting to overlap a little bit. That's also a possibility here. Could be time travel too, as well. But the fact that Cup of Noodles is messing with my head says to me, and it's so many different aspects of it, that there is something going on here. I just don't know quite what it is. But the multi-world parallel possibility and it phasing in and out of our own could be part of it.
Did you ever watch the TV series Fringe?
I've watched every season, all 5 seasons, at least 5 times.
That parallel world, it makes you wonder if all these X-Files, even some people have said that the X-Files, some of the scripts were based on true stories that are just simply fictionalized.
When it comes to something like Fringe, and I hate to always go back and compare Hollywood or TV series with these very important subjects, but when it comes to Fringe, it is so simple and obvious that it allows other people outside of our communities, right, to see that and go, oh, okay, that's a possibility. I get that. That's how well that show was done. That show, I think it's a documentary. That's my take. I think Fringe is based on, it's a documentary without making light of it. And so let me throw this back at you. When people start to talk about things like Mandela effect or parallel worlds, what's the best example that you would bring forward that it is a reality?
When it comes to the Mandela effect?
Or parallel worlds, exactly.
Well, the same thing that you were saying, these quantum computers. And also, what if at one point in our history we were able to tap into another parallel world technology or wisdom or knowledge, and that's what allowed us to incredibly, expand technologically. Even what we see at the beginning of the last century, the 20th century, the amount of technology that we see even right now. I spoke to another individual the other day who said that it's no longer every 18 months that we are doubling our technology. It's happening much, much faster. I mean, look at, I think it was Google that had these 2 computers that were teaching languages to each other, Korean to one, Chinese to another one, and that they found a way to go around it without having to teach themselves that. They taught themselves a different language that we cannot understand, and they had to shut them off last week. So, where is all this exponential knowledge coming from? Is it extraterrestrial? Is it another puddle, if we want to go back to the flat earth model?
Right.
I mean, where is it coming from? And the question is, are we ever going to have disclosure? And I've had this conversation, and you have with Richard Dolan and the rest of them.
Right.
I don't think it's in the best interest of the powers that want to be to disclose at all. Well, because we'll find out that we have absolutely no way of defending ourselves in the event that these, whether they're benign or malign, in order to be able to protect our populations from that. So, but that's a different show.
Well, we got to take a break. When we come back, we've got to do some ET with Mel Fabregas. Veritas Radio. This is Veritas on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. More with Mel after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
It's
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Teppy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn
it. This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Our guest tonight, Mel Fabregas. You can follow Mel at Mel Fabregas. It's right there in Twitter. Join in on the conversation. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Our guest tonight, Mel Fabregas. This is Veritas on Fade to Black. Now, Mel, out of all of your interviews, I don't think I have ever heard you reference, maybe you have, but your own personal UFO sighting or ET experience. Have you seen something in the sky?
Well, you're leaving the best for last, aren't you?
That's right.
So you just came back from East City, I believe.
Yep.
I never saw a UFO before. I was always interested in seeing one. And let me just explain what happened. For years, people were telling me, you need to go to the East City Ranch. That's the Disneyland or Disney World for ufologists.
That's right.
So in 2011, I was invited to go up there. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to enjoy in the camaraderie with people and sit down at night to see what happens. I had low expectations because I don't want to be surprised that I might not be able to find something. But I'm sitting with a bunch of people. They're just like you were. All of a sudden, this light, almost pinkish, just coming my way. I have my camcorder with me. I just couldn't turn it on because I said, maybe if I turn it on, I'll lose the sighting. And this thing stood on top of me, and it glowed gold, almost as if saying, here you go. There's some proof that we're here. I don't know if they're extraterrestrial. I don't know if they're the U.S. military, but I know that whatever I saw is not conventional. Thankfully, there was a good friend of ours, John Kelly, there, who filmed that. And I have proof of that. The second year I go back to ECETI, the first night we're there, at the house, I'm going to sleep early. All of a sudden, it starts shaking, the whole place. I go outside, and there's a Chinook helicopter, probably about 100 feet from our heads. Red lights inside. And I'm thinking, why would they be doing this to a civilian area? Almost as if they're trying to find, signature, a body signature from people who go there. Well, then the next day, I see John Kelly in the middle of the field. He's looking at Mount Adams. And I know you have a great story about this hole that you found at Mount Adams. Mm-hmm. But we're there at night, and all of a sudden, two lights in the middle of the mountain just start moving around. And I'm just start saying, are these snowmobiles?
Right.
What are they?
Right.
Fast forward to another year. One of our listeners from Switzerland all of a sudden says, hey, I need to share with you some information. And this is a story that I've never been able to really put out there and show the images because I'm not authorized. I've showed them to a few researchers. If I ever see you at a conference, I'll show them to you. But he said, look, back in the 80s, a friend of mine in Switzerland was at home. All of a sudden, the house starts vibrating, and the dog just goes outside, starts running to the field, and the guy starts chasing the dog. All of a sudden, these lights start descending, and he starts throwing stones, pebbles at the thing, and he can hear the metallic sound. The thing landed, and these figurines come outside, almost like making figures with light. And he took a bunch of pictures of that. A few years later, they gave him a signal that they were going to come back. He took his camera, and another display of what they could do. They said, hey, we want you to bring your car. We want to show you something. I see all these pictures. He opened the doors. All of a sudden, these orbs, these lights, start dematerializing the car. These pictures are basically from the old type of cameras with rolls. A friend of his had the vision of making color copies. This man who took the pictures came to live in the United States, went to a conference, 2006 or 10, I don't remember exactly, but he went to a UFO conference, showed the pictures, there's the people. He went back to his hotel room, and he said, not even half an hour later, I had over 10 people from the government here knocking on the door and asking me for the camera, the originals, the negatives, and everything. And they said, don't ever show those pictures again.
What did you see?
Well, I have the pictures. Basically, they're orbs. They're lights, one next to each other, making figurines, on the road in Switzerland, dematerializing a car. Now, fast forward to 2011 now. I'm at a International UFO Congress, and I got a phone call that the actual witness was in Arizona, and he wanted to come meet with me. He came and met with me and showed me pictures of the same orbs visiting him here in the United States. He moved to the United States, and the orbs are showing all these things that they do at his house. And I'm asking him, what is this all about? Who are they? And his conclusion is that these are time travelers. Apparently, they're coming here to look at us. Apparently, we are living in a time bubble where we're almost in a prison planet. And it's going to be a few years down the road that we're able to disconnect ourselves from this so-called matrix and interact with call it a galactic brotherhood, if you will. But these are, time travelers going to the past, going to the future, and that's what they are. And one of the images, one person, one human person that came from the future came to visit him and said, do not take a picture of me. But he actually took a picture of a mirror. And you can actually see the uniform and the technology he was using. He had this little metal rectangle that was showing the moon right there in his living room. Wow. I mean, it's just incredible images. And this guy does not want to come out because his wife doesn't even know about it. He doesn't have a book. So the question is, why would he be lying about this? And the pictures seem so convincing. I hope that one day he authorizes me to release them and just tell the story.
Wow. When it comes to orbs, and of course Corey Good talks about the sphere being alliance and these blue spheres and these blue orbs up at ECETI. It was all of us. That's one of the great things about ECETI. You know that you're going to have another 100, 150 people around you witnessing. You have backup, right?
Absolutely.
You have backup. And so I'm sitting in this chair. It's in the video, and I talk about it briefly. But it's about 11 o'clock at night, and I'm sitting all the way to the right at the end of everybody, and I'm looking out across Skywatch Field. I don't have any binoculars. It's just my eyes. And I see in the moonlight at the backside of the field, which is probably a quarter mile or more away, come out from behind the trees, this gray orb. It lasted, Mel, for about 5 seconds. That was it. But it was a little gray dot, and it swoops around from behind the trees and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then stops at the end of the field. And now I'm guessing that this thing was about 50 feet in diameter, but it's two-dimensional, right? It's like an old video game. It's flat. It's like the orbs that you see in photographs, right? It's not 3D, it's 2D, and it's kind of smudged around the edges, and then it just fades away. Now, I rub my eyes, right? Thinking, I've got, something, a floaty in my eye. That was kind of weird, right? Okay. And I'm rubbing my eyes. And as I do that, this lady behind me says, is anybody watching that gray orb out there? and I spin around and I said, do you mean that was real? Holy crap, And now, before anybody can tell me that, I'm crazy or I'm mad. No, it was as real as anything. Now, what it was, I can't explain. I don't know. But I wasn't the only one to see it. Now, that the science needs to get behind this. I don't know why they don't. But what is it that we are seeing? Is it something from the future? Is it interdimensional? Is it some life force here that is around us all the time that we just don't know about? Is it some kind of animal? Is it E.T.? I don't know.
Those orbs that you're referring to, the ones I saw at ECETI, they were kind of like the grayish looking ones. And I had a laser pointer, and they were actually following it intelligently. But those are not the orbs that this man photographed. These are big, massive. Some are yellow, some are orange, some are blue. But I'm going to tell you another story, if you'd like to hear it, that happened to me at ECETI. The last time I went there years ago, 2012, I think it was, James, in the end, he wanted to do a clearing with me. I don't know if he had a chance to do that with him. But he said, by the way, you have a spirit guide. Her name is Nathia. And whenever you need to, assistance, you call her. And I thought, okay, whatever, I'm open-minded. So a few months later, I go to a conference in Sedona. And at night, some of the people invited me to Carlsberg's house for a game. It was like a game of Monopoly, but it's almost like Ouija. You basically call spirit guides and so on. So when it's my chance, somebody said, I've never mentioned this to anyone, by the way. Only James and I knew. They said, oh, Nathia is here.
No,
and I said,
really?
No way. No. Remember, I'm a skeptic, first and foremost.
Right.
But I said, okay, I'm going to remove my hands from the board because I don't want to, make any interference with what's going to happen here. I said, okay, Nathia, you're here. And I said, do you remember where we met And then the person who's scribing and the other person says, yes, we met at the E-SETI Stargate. And I'm thinking, my goodness, I had to go James Gilliland and tell him the story because nobody knew but me.
Right.
So how do you explain these things scientifically without sounding crazy?
You can't. And see, I really believe that these experiences like this, coming from you or coming from me, if we share, these things that happen to us publicly, then everybody else will open up and say, you know what, I'm glad you're talking because I've never talked about it before. And now I feel like I can. And I think that's what's really important. I've always looked at you as being very pragmatic, but, the audience right now has probably thought the same thing. Now they're going, you know what, actually, Mel's pretty cool. Mel's pretty cool. I wanted to ask you, and thank you for sharing that. I talking about orbs or fairies or things, I don't care anymore, Mel. I just don't. It doesn't bother me. I wanted to ask you. I'm going to do this publicly, really quick. I don't think you've ever done coast to coast, have you?
No, I have not.
You want to do it?
I haven't had the privilege.
Okay. Well, you want to do it maybe this weekend?
When this weekend?
Well, like Saturday.
Saturday. Okay.
Okay. But check your books. I'll talk to you about it tomorrow, and I'll see if I can make that happen for you. And we'll continue this conversation over on Coast this Saturday. This thing that has been going on over the last couple of years with. Because you brought up disclosure earlier, but we have been getting. You follow the news. This thing on a weekly basis about exoplanets or fast radio bursts or laser, alien megastructures, life on Europa. It's like every single week now that this constant quest for alien, the search for alien or ET contact is talked about. And what do you think is actually going on with that?
I think I remember this conversation that I had with Nick Pope many years ago, and he told me that there would be a slow drip process, and that slow drip, that little drop would go faster and faster and faster. And me personally, I don't want to offend anybody, but personally, when I hear the word disclosure coming from a government entity, I would not believe it for a minute. I think if disclosure ever occurs, it's going to be at a grassroots level. It's going to be Jimmy Church or Mel or somebody else who has some people who are providing evidence that this is happening. If we don't get killed first, of course.
Right.
But, the fact that we want to go to Mars and we don't want to go to the moon first, we don't want to have an outpost at the moon first, and we're thinking about these other planets, it's important that for the military, industrial, prison, intelligence complex to continue their work. And if wars are no longer effective and people are waking up to the fact that most wars are because of, contrived religion, extremism, financial, working on both sides, what a better way to do this but to bring an exo threat. Just like Reagan said, I wonder how things would be if we were facing an alien threat from outside of this world and we could unite the entire planet. I think that is the next step. As Carol Rosin said, according to what Werner von Braun told her, that the last card would be an extraterrestrial invasion. First, it's going to be the Cold War. Then it's going to be terrorism, the boogeyman. Then it's going to be an exo object, an asteroid, a meteor, something else. But the final card would be the extraterrestrial invasion. And when it happens, don't believe it for a minute. But then you hear NASA all the time saying that we have found Earth-like planets in the Goldilocks zones of several suns. It makes you wonder if they're preparing people, and all these movies that are coming out. I mean, look, September 22nd, I believe, Close Encounters of the Third Kind is coming back, 4K. So all these movies coming out again, almost like if they're planting a seed of something else to come. Whether that's going to be the case or not, I don't know. But please, people, when you hear the government saying we are confirming that we have been in contact with extraterrestrial presence for years, I don't know if they'll believe it, Jimmy.
Well, and with all of your interviews and your friends and the knowledge that you have collected, how much do you think the world governments actually do know? Do you feel that they have made contact and are continuing contact and are holding that knowledge from us? The opposite of they know that we're not alone in the universe. I'm talking about from Roswell forward that there is bodies being held somewhere. We have a treaty. We have communication. We're sharing technology. What do you think is actually going on?
Let me unpack that. That was a multi-pronged question, I think. I believe that governments know about this, especially the biggest hammer in the world, which is the United States. I think definitely we know. And when we have all these people talking about extraterrestrials and the government ridicule them or fictionalize them, it's because they don't want people to know that there's a reality behind the scenes that's interacting with us here. I remember years ago when I started this program, you remember the lights that were seen by the Mexican Air Force in the Bay of Campeche in Mexico?
That's right.
And they were told later, oh, those are oil platforms. Well, I went to the Ministry of Defense in Mexico, and I actually got an interview scheduled with the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, a Brigadier General, and he canceled 5 minutes before the interview. But he did send me a letter in which he said, we cannot confirm or deny what we saw that day. And I think it's because, number one, they canceled the interview because the United States probably said, do not talk. Why would he be saying we cannot confirm or deny? Why couldn't he say, yeah, they were confirmed to be oil platforms? I think the United States has the influence on every country out there. Perhaps we have exotic technology that if anybody decides to talk, we can create an earthquake. Look what happened in Haiti. Look what happened in the last 2 months with the U.S. Navy ships. Twice, it's some merchant ship or oil tanker has been just disabling, but this is what it looks like, disabling our technology, making the vessel inoperable to the point that they come back, they come back, and they ram into it, wanting to sink it. Almost as if, say, Russia, China, what other country, they don't want the United States to start another war. Almost as if saying, look what we can do with one of your vessels. We can do the same thing with all your fleets, so don't even start again.
Yeah, so suddenly we don't know how to drive a boat.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how does that start happening? I'm totally with you on that. That is about as perplexing as anything. I wanted to. Okay, you know what? Can I keep you for another 10 minutes after the next break?
Sure.
Okay, because we have two other subjects I want to get to, and one of those was Apollo. I don't want that to get away from us. But before this next break, this Nazca mummy that Gaia has brought out. Mm-hmm. I know that you've seen the videos and you've looked at these images and the MRIs and the radar, the X-rays. Mm-hmm. What are your eyeballs telling you? What's your gut?
I love my friend Jay Weidner. I would say no comment.
Yeah, man. I just spent the weekend with Jay, right? Yeah. This past weekend. Okay. And he's a really good friend, and I'm with you on this. But my eyes say this is really good eye candy. It's too good to be true. It's too good to be true, but what if, right? So, until we get the DNA stuff back. But let me ask you. I mean, what do your eyeballs say?
I hope Jay's not listening, but I think it's a fake.
Okay.
And again, I don't have all the proof, but unfortunately, I know Jaime Maussan is involved too, and we've seen some of the things that he has come up, in the past, and I just don't see it. I think that this is something that's been sensationalized. I don't see it. I don't see it being true at all.
Yeah, and this is where we get into a very weird paradox. For me, and you said some of the things that Jaime Maussan has been involved with. No, I'll take that a step further. All of the things that Jaime has been involved with.
I was just being nice.
Yeah, yes. So that being said, Gaia knows that too, right? They know that. So why jeopardize your reputation unless there is something else to it that you're willing to take the risk of having the Jaime Maussan baggage come along with it? That's,
exactly.
That's where I kind of trip a little bit. Also, Jay is one of the smartest guys that I know.
Yeah.
And he has had his rough roads in the past. Why go down this voluntarily if you know that it's a hoax and these were manufactured? That's where the paradox for me kicks into gear. It's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, and you need to kind of look at it. Not you, Mel. I mean everybody. Kind of ask yourself that same question. If the Jaime Maussan name comes up and it's Jaime, so that, you know what? Guy is not that dumb. They know that. They know what everybody is going to say.
One thing that I know you wouldn't do, and I wouldn't do, I wouldn't sensationalize something to bring subscribers. And I hate to say it, but this could be why Gaia is doing it.
Well, sure.
This sells.
That's the obvious thing. When you have, I remember in 3 days when the story broke on like Wednesday, and we broke it here, and by the time Friday rolled around, I had Jay on Coast with me that night, and they had clocked up like 50 million views in like 2.5 days. Think about it. That is a crazy amount of exposure. So, could this be subscriber driven? Could this be a money play? Well, money, everybody has their price. No, there's no question about that. But when it comes to reputation in this community, that's the last thing that we need is another black eye. And I just don't see Jay voluntarily, no matter what kind of money is involved, to do such a thing. So that's my. I'm torn. I'm torn in both directions.
I'm torn as well, but again, we cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater. They have great people, Regina Meredith. They have great people who are hosts on Gaia who bring out great. These people are true journalists. But then again, they have this 50 million views. Perhaps some people are going to be disappointed, but they realize that there will people who be subscribing because of other things, other material that they have involved. I mean, we can discuss after we come back from the break. When I was to the History Channel, I saw certain things that I did not like, and you may share your own story, but I can discuss that later.
Sure. Well, let's do that when we come back after the break. And I do want to discuss, speaking of Jay Widener, might as well do a little Apollo, right? And I'm sure that he is listening, by the way. Our guest tonight is Mel Fabregas.
Jay, I love you, man.
Yeah, he knows there's nothing but love for Jay Widener around here. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA, the planet that's faded black. Our guest, this is serious now, Veritas on Faded Black. Our guest, Mel Fabregas. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
Listen to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of. Ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
I'm Matt Ray with America's First News. We all know if you're planning a trip, you should shop and compare, right? But why endlessly search the web when you don't have to? Flight Services helps you find the lowest possible airfare. Talk directly to a travel pro right now for the best deals available. Their travel pros have additional discounts not found on websites, and Flight Services provides 24-hour customer service. Call toll-free 844-845-9944. That's 844-845-9944.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Mel Fabregas. Veritas comes to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. And, of course, you can follow Mel on Twitter at Mel Fabregas. Now, Mel, we started to talk about Apollo earlier. Jay Widener comes up. That just means we have to go straight back to it. But you said something that caught my attention earlier, where you said that, we're bypassing the moon and going straight to Mars. Why do you think that is? Because it appears to be the case for sure. But why do you think that is?
Well, I think that right now we have very inexpensive telescopes. So if we pretended that we were going to the moon, and I don't think that with what NASA presented us in the late 1960s and early 70s, I don't think we actually went. And back then, we didn't have the technology to be able to see all that. And what we call one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind, I think it was $150 billion hoax for mankind. And the reason why I said that, I don't mean to offend people. There are plenty of patriots and people who worked at NASA during that time. And some of you have written to me saying, how dare you say that? I was there. Well, you didn't go to the moon with them. So how do you really know? And what I'm told is that the charter the NASA charter actually came from the Department of Defense. And what I'm being told is that there are two programs, the civil and the military one. At least the civil one, I don't think we went. If we actually went, well, we're not showing the pictures. Perhaps we did it with the military. But what I'm told is that whenever NASA sends a rocket or a space shuttle up, there's always a dual partner in the military going through, Vandenberg or, Kwajalein, that they send those ships up there at the same time. This person that I'm going to be interviewing shortly, his father allegedly was an engineer that worked at Area 51. He took his son to one of those Air Force bases, and he showed one of the gray space shuttles, not the ones that we're used to seeing. So, to answer your question, I don't know if we went to the moon or not, but with what we have been given, the fact that the uniforms, the vests were not gold-plated, the Hasselblad cameras were not gold-plated, the differential in temperature during the day and the evening in the moon, the temperature difference would render those the film useless, not to mention over 3,000 miles of the Van Allen belt, which, by the way, one NASA engineer about a year or two ago, there's a video on the web. Anybody can YouTube it. He's saying, we are now prepared to provide our astronauts a way to go through the Van Allen belt. And the first thing that came to mind was, wait a second, didn't we do that almost 50 years ago? So when you look at the pictures from NASA and you see the lunar module on the alleged moon, and you don't see any soil disturbance, you see almost like, paper, and you see these, very flimsy material. I just don't see how what we were shown there. I think what we were shown there was filmed in a studio in the event that something happened on the way to the moon or at the moon. And if we actually went there, and what this man is telling me is that we actually got there and we didn't discover the moon, somebody was already there. That's the other side of the story.
That is the other side. And for me, and I want to, we got to go back to flat Earth right after this. For me, when I went to the Smithsonian and I see Apollo, Gemini, and Apollo, Gemini, and Mercury capsules, and I look at those, and especially the Apollo one, that technology, because you can go right up and look. And you look inside, and there's a couple of levers, right? a couple of VU meters, but there's no technology in that thing. That's the disturbing part. And knowing what I know now about micrometeorites and radiation and heat, like you're talking about, heat dissipation in that capsule, it would have to be moving all the time because it would be heated up on one side. I'm talking, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of degrees instantly, and then you've got to cool it off. On the other side, it's cool. You know what I mean? And the shadows on the moon, you're standing in the shadow. You step out of the shadow, you get baked. You step into the shadow, and you're at minus 200 degrees or whatever.
Exactly.
That's that. I don't see those spacesuits and whatever's in those backpacks keeping up with that. That's just me. It's the technology side of it. Now, but if that's the case, what about Edgar Mitchell? And you interview him. Now, what do you do with that? Do you say, oh, okay, Edgar, I don't believe that you did it? What do you do with that when you're dealing with somebody that is a hero and we do look up to?
Well, that's what we think. We think they're heroes, and Edgar did a lot of great for the UFO community too.
Yes,
brought a lot of great validity for what we're trying to accomplish, and he was the one astronaut that continued to discuss the secrecy. But then you had Neil Armstrong, who never addressed anything. He did not give an interview. Me, as a 7-year-old, I remember in Puerto Rico, he was going to be arriving to give a press conference in the ports. I was there since 7 o'clock in the morning, ready to say, welcome, Mr. Armstrong. He never showed up, and he never gave interviews. And you could see it when they came back, allegedly from the moon, the very first press conference. You would think, You and I would be jumping up and down as the best point ever, technology-wise, for humanity. Yet, we see these three people there, almost as if somebody died. That makes no sense to me. But again, it's the technology. The Russians were more ahead than we were. They were up there first. And all of a sudden, we have all this. We have, able to go every single time, with the exception, of course, the ones that failed and the other one that almost didn't make it. But in every occasion, we made it, and we brought all this from the moon. And somebody gives in Europe a souvenir of a lunar rock, and then they were able to find out that it was actually petrified wood.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just very strange to me. I think this is a secret that has to be kept. I don't know if it was Stanley Kubrick who did it. It's very plausible, because ever since that happened, Stanley Kubrick did not move from London. Every single movie he made, even if it was going to be in Vietnam, he could have used many other locations, but Full Metal Jacket was fully filmed in London. Mm-hmm. The same thing with the other movies. He was scared of coming back to the United States. And when you start looking at all the people that were involved in this, many of them disappeared or died mysteriously.
And the fact that we haven't gone, past 400 miles, up, that's a pretty trippy thing for me. And second, that video that you're talking about, that interview, when he said, that press conference, when that NASA engineer goes, well, finally, we've got the technology to get through the Van Allen belt. I'm like, wait, whoa. Back up a step here. We allegedly already did that many times over, and now you're addressing it a second time around. That's a pretty trippy thing for you to just suggest out there, and I can't believe more people didn't pick up on it.
Well, somebody asked Alan Bean, one of the astronauts, Mr. Bean, what's your reaction to the fact that all of a sudden, what about the Van Allen belt? And his answer was, what we hadn't discovered it then. Does that mean that because it wasn't discovered, you didn't go through it? So the answers are so infantile that I just don't understand how people just buy it.
Yeah, radiation, out of sight, out of mind. We didn't know it was there, so it didn't affect us. It doesn't work that way.
And look, to me, anything that is discovered, or created or invented, the car, everything is commercialized. You're going to tell me that by now, in the 21st century, we don't have hotels or tourism, space tourism. Imagine platforms out there. There's no way that we haven't returned in 50 years and now all of a sudden we're going to go to Mars. When you look at what's happening in Greenland and other places, and you go to Google Earth and you see that geographical area, and you see some rovers there where NASA, quote unquote, practices, it looks exactly, if you can manipulate Photoshop and put a little bit redder, or like a red tint, it is exactly what we see. These rovers were supposed to be there for, I think it was 2 months, and they have been there for years. By the way, who cleans the lens after the Martian dust storms? So, makes you wonder too.
The video of the International Space Station, again, as far as we go now, it was the space shuttle, but we just stay here in Earth's orbit. And the video of the International Space Station going around the Earth is some of the most incredible. I'm mesmerized by those videos. When you see those, and we discuss the flat Earth, or you see the space shuttle videos with the arm and retrieving satellites, and you're looking at the Earth, as a globe in the background, do you have an issue with that? Is NASA, if that's the case, if the Earth is flat, then that means every single video before Photoshop and CGI has been perfected has been completely manipulated. Where would NASA have that technology? Because that's the only answer we would have. Everything has been manipulated.
Well, I have to tell you, at ECETI again, and this is one of the issues I have with the flat Earth, because when I was there, we were seeing the so-called ISS. You probably saw it too.
Yep.
I think it's every hour, it would come and we would see it. Now, some people say, oh, that's not it. Well, something big was coming around. And I remember in 2011 or 2012, the space shuttle was supposedly linked to it at the time. And we actually kind of saw something behind it. So again, I'm open-minded to all of this, but I have questions.
The first time I saw the ISS, no, let me correct myself. The only time I have seen it, I watched it with my naked eye. This was we had some friends and they had it the app on their phone, and they were like, "Hey, check this out! It's going to fly directly over us in 10 minutes." Right? So we run outside and we go out front, and our friend points over. It's going to pop up over there, and sure enough, to the second, right, pops up over the horizon and flies right over us and it disappears. But you can, this is not your imagination, you can see the solar panels. You can see shape. You can see, that is definitely orbiting our planet. And it's so cool that it is so massive. I don't know how many miles up it is, but it is so massive that you can actually see. It's not a white dot. You can actually see shape to it.
But for NASA's credibility, for example, I think it's 2 years ago, you probably saw that video of EPIC, the telescope, the EPIC telescope, that shows Earth, and you see the moon going in front of Earth, going around it, but not a single cloud formation moves. And this is an issue I have, because if you look at the size of Earth in comparison to the moon, then all these images that we get from the moon where we show the little blue marble, that is impossible. With the size of Earth, that should be covering the entire panorama. So these are questions that I have, and NASA cannot answer them, or they refuse to answer them.
I had Mark D'Antonio on the show.
Yes, I know him.
Yes, last month on the show. And I'm putting him to task. I'm like, well, look, with all of the amateur astronomers on this planet that are finding asteroids, right, that NASA can't find or anybody else, or these big professional observatories, we have all these astronomers around the world with telescopes in their backyard. Why can't Hubble shoot the moon? Why can't we look at the moon accurately? Why can't we point the Palomar Observatory, the Vatican Telescope, or Lucifer, or any of these other things that they have at the moon, and let's look at things close up? Why not? And he gave me a pretty long explanation as to why, and how the digital pickups on Hubble, are 1 pixel, and the moon would only be 1 pixel on Hubble. You know what? Give me some close-ups of the moon. That's all I want. I cannot believe, when I was a kid, I would sit out with my dad's telescope and I would look at all the craters on the moon with this little telescope in the backyard. Why can't we look at the moon? Why can't we look at all of this stuff? We should be able to see the rover tire tracks all over the place. And the rover's up there somewhere, right? Where are those pictures? Everything that we have is from far away, and you have to squint your eyes and go, okay, I guess that's the rover. I guess that's the lunar lander. I guess that's the American flag. Okay, where's the close-up of the campsite?
Exactly. And I don't know if you know the story of Jay Whitener and Richard C. Hoagland years ago. I don't know. Do you know the story of how they were trying to assemble this operation to send a rocket to the moon to map the moon in 3D?
Yes.
And then the story?
Yes.
How they called NASA, and a friend of Jay's, and basically the guy said, "You're not going to the moon. If you try to launch a rocket, we'll just kill it out of the sky. Don't ever call me again."
Why? That's the thing. And I get that. But I mean, if you're hiding, if you have nothing to hide, then what's the big deal?
Then why is it now that the moon, certain area where we landed, you cannot go back? Any other country, they're not allowed to go where we landed.
China wanted to, right?
China wanted to, but they were told you cannot land where we landed. And that only would... Look at Antarctica. There are over 15 nations that have a treaty there that do not allow anybody to go beyond a certain point. What is there? You would think that if the story of Admiral Byrd is true, that he found another continent out there full of resources. You would think by now Exxon or the big companies would be out there mining or bringing some of the resources back here, but it's not allowed. Same thing with the moon. You would think that Amazon or Tesla or SpaceX would have a camera up there looking at Earth 24/7 and just have little commercials on the right side, and you can see Earth 24/7. Isn't it strange that he hasn't been commercialized yet? I think that we just didn't have the capability, or we were told don't ever come back. One of the two.
Do you think that the Vatican is also, because they've now flip-flopped, if you go back to Copernicus and Galileo, they flip-flopped probably 200 times in the last few hundred years. Do you think the Vatican has known from the beginning the answer to all of this and ET?
Absolutely. I think that when we think of the burning of the Library of Alexandria, I think that they kept a lot in the catacombs underneath the Vatican. I can guarantee it. They have so much stuff there that they don't want to release to the world because it will be detrimental to them. But I remember 2009, I think it was, when this whole disclosure started taking place once again. Somebody from the Vatican said, E.T. is our brother, and then this TV series V, the revamped V, came along. And I don't know if you remember when, the priests were concerned that people were going to give devotion to the ETs, but no, they actually need more of the church now. I think they know. Look what's happening here in Arizona. They have, as you mentioned, Lucifer. That's actually right here in the Vatican telescope. It used to be until the 1980s in Castel Gandolfo in Rome, but because of the visual pollution, they needed to scout for another location. Where did they find it? Right here in Tucson, probably about 35, 40 miles away from me. So why is it? They're looking for Wormwood, Nibiru, Planet X. Why so much interest in what's happening outside of planet Earth if allegedly we are alone in the universe?
And I kind of want to leave with this. When we look at guys like Van Tassel and Adamski and the Venetians and all of the contactee movement of the 50s, and you look at all of those interviews from people on the street. Yeah, I cruised on a flying saucer last week. And you watch these over and over and over again. With Adamski, with Van Tassel, and the rest of that movement from the 50s, do you think that there was actually something to that? Do you think that there was something going on that the government knew about? And they're going to, and I want to address this too today, the tinfoil hat thing, everybody is crazy. That's what happened in the 50s. Everything gets dismissed. We're going through that again today here. Do you think there was something to Adamski and Van Tassel and that movement?
I think there was something to it. I don't believe anybody. I either know or I don't. I can only take their word for it. At the same time, I don't like it when movements become cultic. And because the Adamski, it was almost like a cult. George Van Tassel, the same thing. You have to look at this in a very, very objective manner and, scientifically, if you will. So many people that you and I interview all the time. Do we believe them? Well, unless they take me on a ride on the spaceship, all I can say is this is very interesting. I am not denouncing what you're saying. I cannot prove you otherwise. At the same time, I've had witnesses who have such a compelling story. Chris Bledsoe, I don't know if you know who he is.
Absolutely.
Incredible story of somebody who was a very successful contractor, very religious family. And his story is just, when you listen to what he has to say, you think, wait a second, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah, I was just thinking Thomas Reed. I mean, another example of a successful family, families in politics, dad's a politician, everything is correct about the family, but yet he's got this incredible story. So where do you go with this? Me and my brother, we walked on the craft, they showed us this, they took us in a classroom and showed us, and what do you do with that? So much today is talked about evidence. I know you're dealing with the same thing. Okay, well, this is great. The story is great, but what about the evidence? And how do you answer that when somebody says to you, Mel, okay, it's great that you had him on the show, but you didn't ask him about evidence. What about the evidence? How do you answer that now?
I've asked the question many times. I've said, hey, where'd they come from? A lot of times, one of the frequently asked questions is that, well, they don't want to tell us where they come from. And would you? If you look at the amount of turmoil that we have on this planet and the way we treat each other, would you give your address? So I get that. But, are you bringing me an ashtray from the craft? Are you bringing me some kind of evidence? And the answer is always no. They don't allow you. They disable you. They paralyze you. I can only take their word for what they're saying. This is an area that I'm very, very interested in, and I'm hoping that one day we can have more evidence. The question is, would the powers that want to be allow you? I mean, these pictures that I'm talking about, Mark D'Antonio saw those pictures, by the way. Mm-hmm. And, I had another guest at the show. I'm not going to mention his name. He's elderly now. But he was furious with Mark because Mark was debunking every single one of them. And the other person, who's a former military person, said, Mark, come on now. But anyway, love you, Mark, as well. So I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I'm still looking. I'm interested in the topic. I hope that one day we can finally embrace these beings, whether they're interdimensional, extraterrestrial, or simply coming from another puddle, if you believe in the flat earth, or whatever it is. I strongly believe in my heart, in my soul, that there's life outside of this plane or this planet, and there are answers to many questions, and I hope that one day we can interact with them.
Thank you so much, Mel. Where can everybody go and check out Veritas and listen to all of your new stuff as well as your archives?
Very simple. Just go to veritasradio.com. Also like us on Facebook. I interact with our listeners there, but just veritasradio.com. We're only subscriber-based. We have no sponsors. Only people like you folks listening are the ones that keep the truth going.
Thank you so much for all that you do, my friend. And let's not take so long to get you on the next time. And hopefully I'll be able to get things set up and we'll get you finally on Coast this weekend. And then, of course, I'll go over to Veritas and
Absolutely.
knock one out.
You have to come to Veritas. It's been an honor. Jimmy, you're doing a great job. I love your stuff, and you're one of the people that I like to emulate as well.
Thank you so much, Mel. Be safe out there, my friend, and I'll give you a call tomorrow. First thing.
You too. Thank
you, Mel. Mel Fabregas. Again, Veritas. It's very simple. VeritasRadio.com. And again, all subscriber-based over there. So take the time to go and check it out. All the archives are over there as well. Mel Fabregas. So with that, Mel, thank you for going into overtime with me. And I've got to get out of here. We took it to the absolute bloody end. Tomorrow night on the show, we have Brad Olson. We're going to do an eclipse, a total eclipse recap. I do want to see all of your pictures and your stories. We'll do all of that tomorrow. We're going to have Brad on. He was up in Idaho. He got the total eclipse. That's what we're going to do tomorrow night. And again, Thursday night, Ralph Ellis will be here. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark T. Kovar, LJ3, Renee Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Music, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Until tomorrow night, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.